Welcome to the fight game. He's Icewater, I'm Puma, and we got some sad news in the boxing game. It was a guy that was part of the heyday of the heavyweight division. George Foreman passes away at 76. He was born in Marshall, Texas, and he lived in Houston. He was a proud son of Houston, Texas, and he passed away on the 21st of March. This guy was the two-time heavyweight champion. He's part of the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He had, to me, I always say he had two careers because he had the first career where he was just a menace. And you talk about weapons of mass destruction. Those two fists were weapons of mass destruction, just tearing everybody up in the heavyweight division until they got to Ali. And then the transformation started to happen with him where he fought a few more times after that, and then he decided to retire. And 10 years later, he comes back, and he's this totally different person that when he started his career, I did not root for him, because he was knocking out Joe Frazier. I was afraid for Ali's life in the Rumble in the Jungle. And when he came back, it was like we were rooting for him because he totally changed his personality. He became a household name, of course, with the George Foreman grill. That I think I still have my grill packed up in a box. And he became this larger-than-life character that gave us old guys hope that if you feel like you still got it, you can go in there and go get it. Your thoughts on George Foreman?
Yeah, an amazing individual. Like you mentioned, not too many people can start life a certain kind of way and then transform, right? It's very difficult. Because I think we said before earlier that, he's kind of modeling himself after like Sonny Liston. Because Sonny Liston was really a tough guy, never really smiled and angry, man, a few words. And, George Foreman, even when he won his gold medal, he just kind of like just easy going and whatnot. And he thought being nice, he had to be mean to really win and box. But then after, he lost to Ali, I mean, because literally he was what I call the Joe Frazier stopper. Literally, the only man that really just clearly, maybe besides Ali, who could hit Frazier that way and knock him out. I mean, literally, there was no contest in the two times that he fought Frazier.
And Frazier was undefeated when he beat Frazier. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and because the point of it was, when you think about it, Frazier had beaten Ali, and Foreman came along and it was like, okay, and Frazier was like the creme de la creme, right? He was the next one, because the fact that he beat Ali, back in the early '70s, it was like he was the guy. And then to see this kind of guy to come up, Olympic champion, come up and do that to him, and everybody was really concerned about, oh, we know if you can beat Frazier like that, what the hell is he gonna do to Ali? Like you said, everybody was scared.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
like man, this dude's gonna kill Ali. I mean, and even in people in his corner, Angelo Dundee was saying like like Mickey said in the Rocky movie, him yeah, he don't want no, you don't get no shot. We're ready. But, so
Uh,
yeah, but yeah, he was amazing, and it was like I told you, it was really weird the way he retired because he loses to Ali, and then I think he had a fight or two after that, and he ends up fighting a counter puncher by the name of Jimmy Young, one of the top counter punchers in the '70s, and lost to him, and then it's like he just disappeared, and maybe that's when his life transformed in regards to the level of his life changing and what he was doing. And then, of course, he always said that Ali was a um, major influence on his life because he saw Ali, even though he used to joke at him, he thought he was a little chump or whatever, so punk, whatever, because he was all smiling, always joking around. But he saw how people responded to him, and he goes, "What the hell am I mad at?" And I don't have to be kissing anybody's butt or anything, but maybe if I, showed a little kindness and smile, never know what people might think about me. And it transformed from that standpoint where the rest was history. From the George Foreman grill to so many other was it Meineke commercials. I mean, he was on every daggone thing. He was a household name, and then when he boxed, people loved him. Probably when he got back in the ring, and then when he left the ring, he was a commentator and an amazing commentator because he used so many verbose words and flamboyant words that he was just a joy to listen to. It was like a breath of fresh air. And you're like, is this dude real serious? And then like I used to say like he would come off and get that
Yeah.
at the end. And then the funny thing for me was he was happy with his transformation, but I said he smiled all the time because he kept thinking how much money he was making.
He made a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
He
So
made a
it was
lot of
like, you make a lot of money like that, how the hell can you be mad?
yeah,
Dude, like,
yeah,
what you smiling so much for, George? What the hell you, as they say, angry people say this, what the hell you smiling for so much?
yeah.
What you smiling so much for? But no, he was amazing. Definitely kudos to his family and sympathy and comfort because he had a lot of kids and they all loved him. But he was a man's man. He was a family man. You know, turned his life around, got some things together, and he loved his family. And he's a good dude. He turned it around, and this is a very solid example of a hardworking man that put things together and took care of his people. But he also was a fair and a good dude.
Yeah, reading up on some of his history, he did live in poverty, and he talked about that in several interviews, and how he felt ashamed to go to school because he didn't have enough school clothes to go to, and so that may have had something to do with why he was so mean and gruff, and holding on to a lot of trauma. But in 1977, he retired after he lost to Jimmy Young, and then he comes back, and in 1994, at the age of 45, won the unified WBA, IBF, and lineal heavyweight championship against Michael Moore, which I didn't think he was going to win, but he did win. I was rooting for him to win that fight. And, it was like, he was on every talk show, everybody wanted, a part of George Foreman. And I think we all rode the wave with him in that because, at that time, we were much younger at that particular point. But here's a guy almost 50 years old who was, doing his thing, and this was his second career. He became an ordained minister. He fought for, a bunch of titles. And I said in the other show, our regular sports show, that I saw interviews with Shannon Briggs, who said, this guy must have something in his gloves because he's like, that's the hardest I've ever been hit. And I know that Evander Holyfield, who probably still feeling the effects of the punches, said, are my teeth still in my mouth? Because this guy hit me so hard, I thought my teeth flew out of my mouth. And so we talk about the hardest hitters in heavyweights. I look at Sonny Liston, Mike Tyson, and George Foreman, but he had like a walk-up uppercut that would just stun fighters, and you didn't see it coming. I saw him do that to Joe Frazier. The way he beat, Ken Norton, um, Jerry Cooney. The list goes on and on and on. His record, he had 81 fights. He has 76 wins and 68 knockouts, which is approximately 84% knockout percentage. That's a he had 5 losses, but 80% of the time, if he was gonna fight, somebody's gonna get laid out. But my favorite fight of his, and I go back from time to time to watch it, is him and Ronnie Lau. Those two guys were it was a slugfest, and the last man standing won.
No doubt, no doubt. Amazing fights. That's the one thing about, we talk about them old school fights in the 70s, man. It was all or nothing. Those dudes put it all on the line. Great fights that were missed. There's some things if you really want to see solid fights, we're going to have to start recommending some fights for people to go back and watch to catch just to see what boxing was back then.
Yeah. Peaceful Journey. He's an ancestor now, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more tributes to him. It should have happened when he was still living. He should have got his flowers, but the games still go on, and but he would definitely be remembered. We want to talk about Fedor. Fedor wins the WBC and WBA championship at 154. I did not get to see the fight. Can you talk to us a little bit about Fedor's win?
Yeah, Cordell Booker was his opponent, was an up and coming guy. I think he was ranked number 5 in one of the rankings, and was expected to give Fandora a run, but for his money. But Fandora, let me tell you, is came out and was strong. He was poised. and he just gave it to him. So he came out and started boxing, taking his time, starting using the uppercut, starting to slow his opponent down, and it almost was what I'll call probably a masterful performance. It seems like he's learned a lot. And granted, depending on the opponent, right? Maybe you might say it's maybe not premier opponent, but the fact that he looks so much more polished, even from his last fight with Tim Tszyu, right? He just looked like a different fighter. He looks like he's the type of champion that is the guy that's really making it happen for himself and coming full circle. So yeah, and for him to win two belts now, 154, that's a loaded division with a lot of potential opponents. And it'll be interesting to see what he does next. He talked about he wants to unify, but there's a lot of opportunity for him to do some other things. Kudos to him because he's real tall. He's like 6'7", and at that
Towering.
division, he's even bigger than 154. He's even bigger than most at
Yeah.
that division.
The Towering Inferno, they call him, with a
Yeah,
fourth round KO.
yeah.
Cordell Booker. The other fight that happened last night was Cambosis beat Willie. And now he's looking for Hitchinson to fight. So the ferocious Cambosis wins. How about that fight?
Yeah, well, we've been waiting on Cambosis. We've been waiting. He's been talking about it. I mean, he took those two L's to Devin Haney, and he made him look very vanilla. And we've been looking for the guy that came up was actually able to. I think when he's able to dethrone. Did he dethrone Teofimo Lopez? I
Mm-hmm.
think it was when he took his belts. So we've been waiting for that guy to be ferocious again, and now seems like he found some type of fire again. Not sure what that's going to get him, but the way that he fought in this last match showed you that he still has some fire. Question is, can he be consistent with it as he moves forward against some of the top guys? But at least for this fight, he showed that fire and that zest for being one of the best guys out there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and speaking of Lopez, I know we talked before the show about Boots Ennis and a potential fight, him and Teofimo Lopez. Is that going to go anywhere? Because it seems like all these potential fights are kind of popping up, but we don't see somebody signing the contract and finalizing and getting it on.
Well, I mean, we don't know if it's going to happen, but I'll say this: certain fighters are running out of options, right? The problem for Boots Ennis is he's at 147. A lot of marquee names have left 147, right? They moved up, so now he's going to have to go back down to 140 and maybe go after some of those guys, hoping they'll move up. But somebody like Boots Ennis versus Teofimo Lopez would be a good fight. So that's a potential. So I think it's more than likely that it may happen than not, just because Boots Ennis is running out of folks. First, we thought it was Virgil Ortiz, but Ortiz went up to 154. He's not playing that game anymore. There's a point of Boots Ennis always trying to reach out and call out Terrence Crawford. That ship sailed a long time ago. Terrence Crawford moved up from 154. We're thinking he's going to abandon his 154 belt because he's moving up to fight Canelo.
Right.
So with that being said, there's a lot, but yeah. So Boots, you're running out of people. So I mean, if you really want to be respected, timing is everything. If he really wants to be respected as one of the top guys, and for that 147 division, unless he moves to 154, which I don't think he wants to do, not right now, then you got to fight somebody like Teofimo Lopez if you can secure them.
I can't see that being a main card. I don't know if it's worth per pay-per-view at this particular point. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, probably not. Because Teofimo has ups and downs. I mean, Boots, I don't know if it's the leader of a card. They might have to bring somebody else as a co-main, right? Kind of put him on there. It might work that way. Another name that I'm thinking about would not be bad because they're saying that this guy, he has something to prove and it would be interesting, but I don't think they would take the fight. Boots Ennis versus Devin Haney.
Yeah.
They're saying Devin Haney is really struggling trying to be at 140. And since he's gonna go to 147 and be big, what better fight? To me, if Devin Haney wants to prove, I mean, of course there's always Ryan Garcia, right? We got Ryan Garcia, and that's another name, Ryan Garcia versus Bruce Ennis. But if you want to really go and Ryan's at 140, but he could go to 147. But if Devin Haney really wants to submit, let's say beats Ryan Garcia, right? If he gets past this one fight and then he goes on to beat Garcia. A fight with Boots Ennis would almost put, to me, Devin Haney back in that upper echelon of fighters because we know what Boots Ennis needs to be tested. He's young, he's undefeated, and if you can walk away with a secure victory over a guy like that, you'll get a lot of love. You're gonna get a lot of love. So I'm not sure what the Haney camp is thinking. But if you want, after you get through what you're going to be going through, get past your fight coming up on May 2nd, and you get past the rematch with Ryan Garcia. Why not go after Boots Ennis? If you're really serious about that madness. I mean, you talked about Shakur, but you kind of moved on because you're going up. Talked about Tank, that's another fight, but if you're going to keep moving up to 147, those guys are not going to be able to really run up to 147 right away. So there's somebody waiting for a real challenge so he can test his mettle as well in Boots Ennis. So I think it'd be a pretty good fight.
Yeah. So one time Thurman beats Jarvis in 3 rounds, and I thought Keith Thurman was done. I really thought after Pacquiao whooped his ass, I thought we're not going to. He talked about fighting Carissa Shields at one particular point. The Jake Pauls of the world. He talked about that. He was looking for fights to happen. Maybe trying to grab Pacquiao again. I don't know, but I thought he was done. And then he comes back, and who is he going to fight at this particular point? Because one time is I thought pastime at this particular point.
Well, he did come back, and he seemed like he still had a little pop in his punch, and he hurt a guy. So therefore, it's like one time is back, and all the hype. But to answer your question, I don't think any top notch champions really wants to fight him because they don't think it's worth it. But so now what does he do? You have to go after the best names that you can grab. And maybe some people on the upswing or trying to resurrect their career or been out for a while. One of the first names that comes to your mind, of course, is going to be Errol Spence Jr. if he wants to fight again.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an excellent fight. We find out who's for real. Errol has not really said he's going to retire, but he says he has a lot of all that he already needs. But if you come back, Keith Thurman, you looking for a real fight, sign with Errol Spence Jr. I think if Errol still wants to fight, the other person that he would probably fight is Tim Tszyu.
Yeah.
Tim Tszyu had a very tough outing last time, and he's looking for a way to get back in it. In fact, Keith Thurman called him out to say, hey, yeah, so maybe he sees something, and Tim Tszyu's trying to really get back on track. So I think Tim Tszyu has a fight coming up real soon. But if he gets over that, why not? You got two guys trying to find out if they still have it. Tim Tszyu lost when he came back after that loss to Fundora and lost, and now he's trying to redeem himself. So if you think Keith Thurman's an old man, shut him up, go in there and put him down and move forward and move back up into the upper class, if you will.
You can always go to the Philippines and challenge Pacquiao again.
Man,
I don't think
Pacquiao.
you want to do
But
that.
again, exhibition, bro. Exhibition, bro.
All right, let's go to the heavyweights. Usyk, I thought was going to solidify a fight with Parker. Now he's talking about he wants to fight Dubois, or I always mess up his name, Dubois.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He's looking like he's trying to figure out who to fight, and I guess he's going to have maybe a couple more fights, and then he's going to retire as champion if he can hold on to that belt.
Yeah, I'll get that. And that's what I was asking before as to who's left.
Yeah.
He's not coming back down to cruiser.
Right.
Said he can't do that. So there's not much going on for him out there. I think there's what is it? Is it the like Canadian or Russian champion or something like somebody running around that they were talking about? But that's not really a person that's really proven. So when you look at it, it has to be Parker or Dubois.
Yeah.
So to me, I think Parker's improved, but I don't know. I mean, I'm almost looking like to me, Parker is almost like watching the resurgence of Anthony Joshua, right?
Mm.
It might be fool's gold, and I'm saying that. Anthony Joshua had a couple. two or three fights, we look real good, knock the guy out, and we're like, oh, he's back. Is Parker back though?
Right.
So if not, we'll find out. There's still questions. A lot of people thought he hit him, and he said it was low, and he said, I think I knocked him down. Maybe that may be a fight to get back into. So the boy got hurt before, I think in his last, if something was happening, he wasn't able to fight. So whatever he wants to do. I mean, I had to finally acknowledge him and give him his due. He did do what he's doing up there, and it was no joke. So I'd rather see him fight one of those two guys. I'd rather see him fight Dubois because I think Dubois at least has been there before, maybe challenge him a little bit. I'm just uncertain of what Parker can bring. I'm just not sure. And I think the fact that Dubois has those hands and hits him hard could possibly cause a problem. But I'd rather see that fight. But then again, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and to me, and a side note to that, it seemed like the Europeans are more busier in the boxing game than the Americans right now. It's like they're fighting over there, and there's some of the fighters I don't really know unless they fight American fighters. But it seems like every week it's just busier. It's just busier, and news is coming out of that, and they're fighting, and we're talking and tweeting over here. That's
Yeah.
just my opinion. Yeah.
Well, a lot of it comes down to the money, and Turkey, you know, is doing this thing over there, and it's he has the money, and he makes everybody comes to Saudi Arabia and fight and whatnot too. And then there are certain ones that don't want to deal with him at all. But I think PBC, they even with the Fundora fight, they came in with a nice card. It was decent, right? I think what the PBC is going to be doing too is some of these fights they're going to just put out there for free. They're going back to that instead of just having it where you got pay-per-view all the time. So I think they'll start making stuff free again, certain fights, and I think that'll be interesting and it will bring people back in. So when it's time for the big fights, that we'll do that. Plus, two, people are really leery because now, as we said before, they're trying to get some documentation. They're trying to regulate and let people know that as much as you may love him, Jake Paul is not a real boxer. Okay, that's not real legitimate. But when the confusion comes in is when we hear that Tank Davis was willing to sign a contract to fight him. I mean, to me, it's the factor in the weight difference is preposterous in itself. So Tank Davis can't make 140. He's complaining about 140. And Jake Paul walking around at 190 easy, maybe closer to 200 pounds. How is that really legit? But again, I guess if they can sell Jake Paul with Mike Tyson, they can sell anything to us. 50 pounds? Come on, man.
Yeah.
50 pounds? You can't make 140 legitimately.
It's becoming a joke.
Yeah, you damn sure can't make 147, but you're going to fight Jake Paul? I mean, to me, I would rather them come out and say, let's stop the BS. This is going to be exhibition. And then we go from there. But don't try to tell me I'm supposed to think this is legit when this dude outweighs you about 50 pounds.
And a story we did not talk about before we end the show is that boxing is back in the Olympics in 2028. I don't know why they even consider taking it out, to be honest with you. I mean, the Olympics would not be the Olympics without boxing, but they decided that they were going to keep it in there for 2028. Your thoughts on this, man?
I'm happy for those that want to compete in the Olympics, okay? I'm happy for that because I think for some countries, it used to be America, but no longer. There's some other countries that really take this seriously, and they have guys that have been training all their lives to try to be part of this, and I think it's great. But I think they still need to clean the crap up, particularly if you end up to the point where they had the women's boxing and you had some folks coming in as transgenders and fighting as women, and they really still men. Don't y'all send no notes to me on that. It's just what the hell it is.
Oh, hey, they won't send it because I mean we didn't shy away from saying that if it's transgender then they need to fight other transgenders.
Right, and they need to have a separate category for that, which is fine.
Yeah.
But you can't sit up here and do that and say you're ready when you're literally punishing women.
Yes.
You're punishing women. I mean, really hurting women. And that's a bad example to set. But that from that standpoint. But I think that other than that, I would just like to see the United States get their program back together with the right coach. I know Al Mitchell was over for a long time, but sometimes that same voice over and over gets old and stale. And we just need to have some pride because we haven't really. When's the last time we won a gold medal?
I don't know. I mean, I've been talking to some folks here in Chicago and trying to start a youth boxing, thing here to get a champion out of Chicago because you have fighters. MMA is just taking over. I mean, just taking over. I like to congratulate Hannette Stack, who won a bout in her MMA fight Friday. She's 5-1 now, and but as far as boxing, we need some champions coming out of I know Dayton, Ohio was a hotbed at one particular time, or Ohio was, and Chicago. Get some fighters out of Chicago to get back into boxing, and I'm looking at the youth and training the youth up, to do that one day, maybe 8 to 10 years down the road, have a champion coming out of Chicago. But it's almost like when I think about baseball and how baseball was popular when we were kids, and you had a little league everywhere. And now you can hardly find little league anywhere, and you don't have a lot of black players playing in baseball. Now boxing is becoming that sport where it's going international. We're not the dominant force anymore in the game.
No, I agree with that. But there's still some places and some little dirty hidden away gym where somebody put some work in. And every time I think it's probably done, amateur is done, I think about it and I look over and I think about my good buddy Buster Douglas, who's still training kids in the gym. And every summer they have the little Golden Gloves, or they have like bouts over at the state fair, and it's like they have like 2 or 3 days full of cards. And what I think the problem really is, and I think is really sad, and I think they deserve more love, is you have these amateur fighters fighting, and they have these different meets, and unless you're in the boxing world, we don't know about them. And one of the things I wanted to do is maybe talk to a Buster, somebody at the Columbus, Park and Recs, talk to them about promoting it so people could come see them. I don't think they do a good job of that. I mean, literally, it's to a point I thought at one time about becoming a judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that. And they're like, well, you're not going to get paid any money. You're not going to get paid a lot. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I think the kids deserve to have somebody to have an idea what the hell is going on. They deserve that. I don't want to be a referee, but I like just to be able to get to watch it and say, okay, point, 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 and give them at least a fair shake. Because there's so many times we see people judging these matches, even on the amateur level, and it seems like they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah, get Buster on the show. Get Buster on the show. Talk to him. I want to talk to him about how he beat Mike Tyson. I want I want to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that sticks out in my memory as one of the best sports stories ever.
You might try to come on if you let him talk about his basketball career.
We can do that.
He used to be a hooper back in the day. He was a nice high school hooper and played junior college basketball at Sinclair College in Dayton, Ohio. So
did he play power forward?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a scorer too. He says basketball was his first love.
Okay. Yeah. By all means. He's Buster Douglas. He can talk about anything he wants when he come on this show. He's Icewater, I'm Puma, and this is the fight there.